Christopher Nolan has brought the Odyssey to the screen. In an era of superheroes and spectacle, one of our most ambitious filmmakers has chosen to adapt a poem that is nearly 2,800 years old. That's not just ancient history, that's the bedrock of Western storytelling itself. The fact that Nolan, a director known for mind-bending explorations of time, memory, and identity, would turn to this particular myth tells us something essential. The Odyssey is not merely a story. It is the story. The one that, if you understand it deeply enough, can change how you see your own life. But here's the thing about classics. We think we know them. We've absorbed the pop culture versions. We've seen the references in movies, and because we think we know it, we never truly see it. We miss the profound philosophical architecture beneath the adventure and miss the wisdom that has kept this story alive for 3 millennia. Today, we're going to uncover that wisdom as a map of the human soul, a guide to the vices that destroy us and the virtues that save us. Because here's the truth. Odysseus isn't just trying to get back to Ithaca. He's trying to get back to himself, and so are we. Let's begin with a word, nostos. In ancient Greek, it means homecoming. You know its descendant, nostalgia. But here's what we've forgotten. Nostalgia literally means the pain of homecoming. The Greeks understood that returning home isn't just joyful, it's agonizing. Because home isn't just a place on a map. Home is the anchor of who you are. And when you've been away too long, when you've been tested too hard, you might not recognize the person who returns. You might not recognize the place you've returned to. This is why the Odyssey opens not with Odysseus, but with his son Telemachus, a young man who doesn't know his own father, who is being devoured alive by parasitic suitors in his own house. And it opens with the gods in council, discussing the nature of human suffering. Listen to Zeus's words. They are the philosophical key to everything that follows. Ah, how shameless, the way these mortals blame the gods. From us alone, they say, come all their miseries. But they themselves, with their own reckless ways, compound their pains beyond their proper share. This is not a rejection of fate, but Zeus is pointing to something more subtle. The mysterious intersection where divine will meets human choice. The gods set the stage, they create the conditions, but mortals, with their reckless ways, make their suffering worse. They choose to embrace vice and choose to abandon virtue, and then they blame heaven for the consequences. This compatibilist tension, fate and free will dancing together, is the engine of the entire epic. Odysseus's destiny is to return home. That is fixed, but how he returns, that depends entirely on the choices he makes along the way. Will he master his appetites? Will he remember who he is and what he's fighting for? Which brings us to the beating heart of the story, love and duty. Odysseus is a man driven by 2 things, love for his wife Penelope and duty to his son Telemachus. When we meet him, he's sobbing on the shore of Calypso's island. 7 years trapped there, 7 years of immortality offered, 7 years of refusing to forget. He could stay and have eternal youth, pleasure and ease, but he chooses pain and struggle. He chooses the sea and the storm, because on that island, he's not a husband, nor a father, nor a king. He's just a man without his identity. This is the thesis of the Odyssey. It's not a story about getting home. It's a story about becoming someone worth coming home to. A story about a man driven by love and duty, who must navigate the vices of the world and the vices within himself to reclaim what makes him human. Odysseus is not Achilles. Achilles is strength, the warrior who wins through sheer physical dominance. Odysseus is Metis, cunning, intelligence, the ability to think his way out of any trap. In the Greek imagination, this was a different kind of heroism. Not the muscle of the lion, but the mind of the fox. And nowhere is this more brilliantly displayed than in the Cyclops episode. Odysseus and his men are trapped in the cave of Polyphemus, a giant who has already devoured several of them. They can't fight and overpower him. They can only think their way out. So Odysseus tells the Cyclops his name is Otis. Nobody. Then he gets him drunk, drives a burning stake into his single eye, and escapes by clinging to the bellies of sheep as they're led out to pasture. It's a masterpiece of cunning, Metis at its finest. Odysseus outsmarts a monster that no army could defeat. But then, he makes a fatal mistake. He's safe on his ship, pulling away from the island. But Odysseus, the clever one, the man who always has a trick up his sleeve, cannot resist. He shouts his real name back at the blinded giant. Odysseus, remember me. I am Odysseus, the son of Laertes, the one who defeated you. Why would a man of such intelligence do something so monumentally stupid? Because the same quality that saved him is also his greatest vulnerability. Intellect saves him. Ego destroys him. He can't let the victory be anonymous and let the deed go unrecorded. He needs the world to know that he was the one who outsmarted the Cyclops. And in that moment of pride, he turns a temporary enemy into a permanent one. Polyphemus prays to his father Poseidon, and the god of the sea sets his curse upon Odysseus. 10 more years of wandering, the loss of every ship, the death of every man. This is the price of cleverness without wisdom, intelligence without humility. Odysseus learns, painfully, that survival isn't enough. Winning isn't enough. If victory becomes an idol, if reputation becomes an obsession, you destroy everything you're trying to protect. His men will die because of his ego, and his homecoming will be delayed by a decade because he couldn't let the Cyclops remain ignorant. The lesson is clear. Your gifts can save you, but only if you master them. If you don't, they will be the instruments of your undoing. But the journey doesn't get easier. It only gets harder. Because now Odysseus must face not just monsters, but temptations, seductions of the soul that promise pleasure but deliver destruction. First, the lotus eaters. These are not villains, as they're not trying to harm anyone. They simply offer fruit, food that makes you forget everything but the present moment. The men who eat it lose all desire to return home. They stop caring about Ithaca and become content to sit in a haze of blissful nothingness, drifting away from identity and purpose. This is the trap of apathy, nihilistic escapism, the seduction of not caring anymore. When life is hard and struggle seems endless, who wouldn't want to just stop? Who wouldn't want to surrender to oblivion, to float away from responsibility and pain? Odysseus drags his men back to the ships and forces them to leave. He understands that the end of suffering cannot be the end of meaning. Then, the sirens. These creatures sing knowledge, forbidden, irresistible knowledge. They promise to tell you everything, the secrets of the cosmos, the mysteries of the past, the future of all things. And their song is so beautiful that men leap to their deaths just to hear it. Odysseus does something extraordinary here. Rather than relying on willpower alone, this master strategist engineers his environment. Wax plugs the ears of his crew, and they bind their captain to the mast. His orders are absolute. No matter how much he begs, no matter how desperately he pleads, they must not release him. This is profound wisdom. We are not as strong as we think we are. The best of us, the cleverest of us, can be undone by our own desires. So we build structures, we create constraints, we acknowledge our weakness and fortify against it. Odysseus knows that his love of knowledge, the very thing that defines him, could destroy him. So he ties himself down and makes it impossible to surrender to the song. Then, Circe. She transforms men into swine. The crew becomes pigs, creatures of pure appetite, driven by hunger and lust, the human reason stripped away. The trap here is bestiality, the loss of rationality and a base desire. But Odysseus, with the help of Hermes, resists. No transformation into an animal. Circe is forced to restore his crew. The insistence on remaining human holds firm, even when the alternative seems seductively simple. Give in. Let appetites rule completely. No, he will not. And finally, the hardest test, Calypso. She offers him everything. Immortality, eternal youth, a beautiful goddess who will never age, leave, or disappoint. All he has to do is stay. This is the trap of comfort, the trap of an easy life without struggle, and it's the most seductive of all. Odysseus weeps on her shore. 7 years of longing and of refusing to accept what any reasonable person might take, because Odysseus understands, eventually, that identity is not found in comfort. Home is not found in ease. He must return to Ithaca, to Penelope, to Telemachus. He must accept the struggle, the uncertainty, the inevitable pain. Because to live without struggle is not to live at all. Meaning is not found in happiness. Happiness is a mood. It comes and goes. Meaning is something deeper, a structure that holds your life together even when happiness is absent. Odysseus learns this through suffering. Not because suffering is good in itself, but because his response to suffering reveals what he's made of. He loses everything. His entire crew, destroyed because of his ego, but also because of his leadership, his decisions, and his inability to protect them. The weight of that loss is unbearable. He survives shipwrecks. Foreign courts humiliate him. 7 years of captivity wear on him. From afar, he watches his homeland decay, knowing his absence has allowed chaos to take root. And yet, he does not give up. He does not surrender to despair and blame the gods. Instead, he endures. This is a different kind of courage than we usually recognize. It's not the courage of battle, though Odysseus has that too. It's the courage of persistence. The courage to keep going when every rational reason to continue has been stripped away. When Odysseus finally reaches Ithaca, he doesn't storm the palace and declare himself king and demand his throne, but rather, he allows himself to be humiliated. Dressed as a beggar, insults are accepted without retaliation. The suitors mock him, throw things at him, treat him as nothing, and still, he waits. Because he knows that courage isn't always about acting. Sometimes it's about patient enduring, about knowing when to strike and when to absorb, about fulfilling a larger purpose, even when it requires you to swallow your pride. This is the lesson that carries us through life. Meaning comes not from avoiding suffering, but from choosing how we meet it. Odysseus' suffering doesn't define him. His response to suffering defines him, and that response, patient, courageous, purposeful, restores his kingdom and gives his life meaning. Now we come to the moral architecture that holds this entire world together. Xenia. Hospitality, the sacred law that binds civilization together and separates it from savagery. In the ancient Greek world, hospitality was not a nicety. It was a religious obligation, overseen by Zeus himself. When a stranger came to your door, you welcomed them, fed them, and bathed them. You asked for their name only after you had shown them kindness, because that stranger might be a god in disguise testing your virtue. Or they might simply be a human being, and human beings deserve dignity. The Cyclops violates this law. He doesn't welcome Odysseus and his men, but devours them. By refusing the sacred bond of guest and host, the Cyclops reveals himself as savage, Inhuman, outside the moral order, the Phaeacians, by contrast, embody everything hospitality should be. They welcome Odysseus, shower him with gifts, and grant him passage home. These people represent the standard of virtue. But Xenia has two sides. The host's obligations must be matched by the guests' gratitude, respect, and when the time comes, departure. The guest who refuses to leave, who consumes without thanks and abuses the household. This guest violates the sacred bond just as surely as the host who devours his visitors. This sounds very much like the suitors. For years, they have violated Xenia in Odysseus' own home. They have eaten his food, drunk his wine, slept with his servants. His home was treated as their own. And worst of all, they tried to force his wife into marriage. They're the embodiment of moral rot, of the breakdown of everything that holds civilization together. When Odysseus finally reveals himself and kills them, we are not witnessing revenge. It was the restoration of moral order. The suitors have earned their punishment, as the violation of Xenia is a violation of the sacred, and the sacred must be restored. This is why Odysseus is the hero. He doesn't just reclaim his home, but reestablishes the law and brings order out of chaos. So where does this leave us? We began with Zeus's lament, the tension between fate and free will, and now we can see how it resolves. Fate sets the destination. Odysseus will return to Ithaca, that is fixed, but everything along the way is his choice. He chooses to shout his name at the Cyclops, binding himself to the mast, also his choice. Refusing Calypso, enduring humiliation in Ithaca, all of it his choice. His choices shape his character, and his character shapes his destiny. The monsters he faces aren't just monsters. They are internal struggles made manifest: pride, appetite, escapism, the desire for total knowledge, the seduction of comfortable oblivion. These are vices every human being faces, and they must be resisted. And what happened to those who couldn't resist, such as Odysseus' own men? They suffered the consequences and had no one to blame but themselves, echoing the very words Zeus spoke at the start. Mortals bring their own demise. And this brings us to the deepest truth of the Odyssey. The good life is not a life without struggle. It is a life of struggle for the right things. Love for family, duty to community, courage in the face of suffering, the willingness to endure pain for the sake of purpose. Odysseus embodies these things. Not perfectly, he makes terrible mistakes. But ultimately, he chooses love over comfort. He chooses duty over ease and courage over despair. And in doing so, he becomes not just a king returning to his throne, but a man returning to himself. So let us return to where we began. Christopher Nolan is making a movie about the Odyssey. And why? Because 3,000 years later, we still need this story. We still need to understand that home is not a place. It's the anchor of our identity, the relationships that give our lives meaning, the person we are when we're no longer pretending to be someone else. And we are all, in our own way, trying to get home. We are all struggling against our own Cyclopses, navigating past our sirens and resisting our Calypsos. We are all trying to become someone worth coming home to, because that's what this story is ultimately about. It's about a man who endures everything, loses everything, and still refuses to abandon what matters, again and again. And in the end, he gets home, because he became the kind of man who deserves to be there. The Odyssey isn't a story about getting home. It's a story about becoming someone worth coming home to. And that, perhaps, is the story that never stops mattering. Thank you for spending this time with me. If it meant something, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.